100,000 children in need of a home. Join me for the startling story from Romania this week on
Romania, 1994. I was there with my good friend photojournalist Pat Slattery to document a crisis that had captured the attention of folks around the world, including Tennessee Congressman Bart Gordon. There were too many children and not enough homes or families equipped to raise them. Nicolae Ceausescu, the communist leader of Romania for many years, had outlawed abortion and birth control and incentivized families to have 5 to 10 children to grow his population. By the 90s, the country was overrun with kids in need. The story culminated in a documentary we aired here in Nashville called Hope for 100,000. We visited a number of orphanages while we were there, and I remember one moment really well. We were about to leave the place when a young mother came in, carrying her bundled-up son. I grabbed the translator and learned that the mother was about to surrender her 2 youngest children.
Baby, no, don't take the baby.
Că n-am posibilitate, n-am casă cu ce, unde să-l țin.
I don't have the possibility to keep the child. I don't have a house.
Does she want for them to be adopted by another family or just to get care here?
Ați dori să fie adoptați de altă familie sau doar să fie îngrijiți aici?
Da, să fie, dar să văd și eu familia care vrea să iei.
Yes, they may be adopted. I'm not against it, but I want to know the family.
Ce să fac? Că nu știu ce să fac.
I don't want to have more children, but I don't know what to do to prevent pregnancy.
And then there was the orphanage we visited in Suceava. There were so many cute kids there. But I gotta tell you, there was one exceptionally cute child who seemed to really like the camera. Later, when our documentary aired here in Nashville, 5,000 miles away, a family was watching. And when this little girl crawled across their TV screen and smiled, they said, "We want that one." That family, the Wilkinsons, eventually adopted her and raised her here in Nashville. Many years later, I stumbled across that original video and I sent it to the parents, hoping to do a follow-up story. But they weren't interested in talking at the time, so I kind of let it go. Then, just a couple of months ago, as we were making plans to launch this podcast, I got an email out of the blue. It was from Eden, the little girl in the video, all grown up and curious about her life before adoption. "I just thought I would reach out to you," she wrote. "I'm not sure if you even remember any of this, but I thought I'd take a chance." I do remember, and I'm so glad she decided to hit send. I'm Demetria Kalodimos. It's Banner and Company. Eden, you and I have just met moments ago, but we've got a connection from long ago.
You did a little segment of the orphanage in Romania where I am from, and as I got older, I kind of was always curious about you and learning, meeting you and kind of learning more about that history and just know more about Romania. So I was like talking about maybe living there, and I was telling my boss, and when I said that I was going to live there, they're like, "What? Why would you do that?" And then I told them about the story of how I got the baby picture, and then the other segment of me walking across and smiling and my parents saying, "We want that." They're like, "There's your answer. You need to email right now, Demetria Kalodimos, and email her." And I'm like, she might never remember me. This was like many years ago. Like, I'm not saying she's old or anything, but she might not even remember.
Oh, yes, she is. But go on.
And so I was like, kind of hesitant. And I was like, I don't know, I don't want to bring all this up. Because a lot of the stuff I haven't talked about for like 27.5 years.
How soon were you told growing up that you had been adopted?
I remember my dad and I, we were on our way to Clarksville, and he asked me what my earliest memory was. And it was meeting them for the first time in the orphanage when I got adopted. And I remember them sitting across the table from me, and I was in my caregiver's lap, and Mom kept trying to reach her hand over on me to take it. And I'm like, who are you? No, I don't know who you are. What are you doing? No. And I wouldn't go near her. I wouldn't do anything. You know, I stayed back. All the other kids went up, you know, said hello, and act cute. Me, I stayed back. And then I was like, okay, I guess I could get used to this. So then I went, you know, over to her and sat in her lap and, you know, fell in love. But I was kind of, you know, scared, you know, because I didn't know who these people were. And I was living the life that I only knew. And the caregiver, Mama Fanika, who took really good care of me, who was like my mom, you know, I called her mom. But I was excited to start my new life. I didn't know what I was going to be expecting. And when I came to the U.S., all my family was here. And in my head, I was like, so you took me from one orphanage and brought me to a nicer one with more people? Are y'all crazy? I thought I was going away from the orphanage.
So when you came over, you were how old?
2.5.
In the video, you're substantially younger, but it took a while to get that adoption underway. How long, do you know?
I don't know the exact time, but I know it took a while because the paperwork had fallen through because they had to do the home study again. They had to go through the courts again. And after I did get adopted, I was still considered a ward of the state. And my parents had to fight saying, no, she's our child. We adopted her. We're making her a citizen of the United States. And she is not the state does not own her. We have her.
Yeah, I think the Tennessee law has changed some since then,
I
that
think
you don't
so.
have to re-adopt. But at the time, I believe they had to start proceedings all the way from scratch here.
My mom gave me that court document, and that's how I learned about my biological brother, his name, and then my biological mom's name. And I knew that I had a brother. And then I learned a little bit about that I have, I think, grandparents on my dad's side. I think I learned my dad's name, but I can't remember if I know his name.
I want to get to the search for the other half, but how did your parents explain it to you, and how soon? You're 2.5 years old. You're in the brand new home.
They just, it was like a learning experience for both of us because I didn't talk for 3 days when I came to the U.S. And then my dad says, what happened? Because now I can't seem to stop talking. So he's like, what happened there? But then I was speaking Romanian, and I was, you know, trying to learn English. And my speech was terrible, so I had to take speech therapy, which made me struggle in school. And made learning hard for me because I had to take speech therapy and get pulled out of class. And when I got pulled out of class, I got picked on and bullied, and people just picked on me because they didn't seem like I fit in, and I was speaking differently, and just from where I came from. And so I kind of shut that part of my life out and didn't tell anybody that I was adopted or anything like that until I could trust them. And then when I can trust them, then I open up that little part of me being adopted and being from Romania. And then when I could really trust them, then I slowly started letting them see or hear about the memories that I have of the orphanage and the stuff that I remember. But until I can trust them, all that stayed locked away and nobody knew.
How long did it take you to learn English?
It took me a while. It took me a good long while. I struggle. And sometimes I still stutter. Sometimes I find myself. And then my mom's like trying to get me to sound it out. I'm like, no, I don't want to. It's that word that you said. That's the word it is. I'm trying to get out. And my friends do the same thing. They're like trying to help me. And sometimes they laugh, which I kind of laugh with them. But when I was younger, I kind of it kind of hurt me when people would laugh at me if I stutter or kind of say a wrong word, because it made me feel like I was dumb or like I wasn't speaking, very clearly, which I wasn't. And, that's just how learning English was. It was just very, hard to me. And then people are like, well, you speak English great. And I'm like, I do? Because sometimes I feel like I don't.
Do you remember any Romanian language?
The only thing I remember is tea, which was chai, and then bread was prina. And then my dad, sometimes will say words in Romanian, and I'm like, what did you say? And he'll try to talk to me in Romanian. I'm like, Dad, I'm 31. I stopped speaking Romanian, like, maybe when I was 4 or 5. Like, talk English here.
Now, did your dad study, or did he just pick it up at, enough tourists?
I think a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But I'm not exactly sure.
They're not ethnically Romanian,
No.
your parents. Okay. Did you have a Romanian name?
It was Florentina Georgeta Hogia.
Wow. Does any of that remain on your birth certificate?
Only my Romanian certificate.
Is it interesting? Do you still think of yourself as Florentina in a way?
Sometimes.
It's a pretty name.
And I was thinking about maybe giving it to like my daughter, or whatever, if I have her a daughter. And then my mom's like, maybe not. Maybe that's not such a good idea. Let's just keep that for your name, because that's a special name for you. And it's kind of a cool name, because when I tell that part of my story and I tell them that I have another name, another full name, they're like, what? And then I tell them the name, they're like, really? And they're like, Florentina's a beautiful name. You should have kept that. My parents didn't want me to keep that. They want me to have an American name and be part of, that family.
And the first name of your mother and your brother. What are those?
My mom's name is Elena, or Elaine, and then my brother's name's Marius.
We'll be right back. You are now a child care expert. I can call you that because you're around these 2.5-year-olds day in and day out. Tell me what a 2.5-year-old does comprehend. Put yourself in that position again.
They know, right from wrong. They know, like, they're starting to learn their numbers, songs from, like, they hear a song, they can memorize it. Like Baby Shark. Oh my goodness, my kids are obsessed with Baby Shark. But they're learning, boundaries, and just learning, their words and finding their personality and learning who they are at 2.5. And then we kind of help provide them, let them know that they're loved. Like, I always tell my kids that I love them and that I'm there for them, because in the orphanage, we didn't get told that a lot. And so I find myself, every time I hang up the phone, whether it's with a friend or family or somebody I care about, I always make sure to tell them that I love them, because you never know what could happen.
Absolutely. You tell me that you've got some vivid memories. Talk a little bit about that. I would think it's sights, smells, sounds.
So some of the memories that I have of the orphanage is of how we slept, because we slept 3 to 4 to a bed. And that one really stuck to me, because when I came to the U.S., before I came to the U.S., we stayed in a hotel with a few other kids, so while we had to finish up the documents and make sure all the paperwork was done before everybody could go to their next destination. And we had to get one last checkup to make sure we were all healthy enough to travel and get our updated shots if we needed any shots or anything like that. And I slept in a big bed, and I was like, whoa. And then, my younger sister and I being, so close in age, we shared a room until I started high school. And every time when I got scared, I climbed in her crib. Because most kids go and climb in their parents' bed at night or go climb in, with them. I didn't do that. I climbed in my sister's crib. And my dad didn't like it when she was younger, because he was afraid that I was going to hurt her, because she was a baby and I was a little older. but I didn't care. I was scared, and I used to have somebody next to me, and I
Sure.
would go climb in her crib. And I did that a lot, even, hate to say it, even as I got older. I think I stopped doing it when I started high school. And when I got our own room is when I stopped.
But your comfort came from being close in
Close to
proximity
somebody, yes.
to someone your own age, it seems, too.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, you did go back to Romania. Tell me about how that came about and what a big deal it was.
So for a long time, I was talking to some of my relatives about wanting to live there and kind of find information out about my biological parents or, that part of my life. And it got back to my parents because I never told my parents any of this. And as a high school graduation gift, my mom and dad surprised me and my younger sister with a trip to Romania, Venice, Italy, and Vienna, Austria. And I was like, we're going back to Romania? Sweet. And I was excited, a little nervous, because I was like, okay, I'm going to be going back to the place that I had left. Is everything still going to be the same, or is it going to be like different? So I wasn't sure what to, expect. And then I was surprised to learn that our tour guide, his mom, I think it was his mom, was actually my parents' tour guide when they came to adopt me.
Really?
And he was our tour guide because he lives there in Romania right now with his wife and 2 kids, and he has dual citizenship.
What'd you think of the country?
Beautiful. And we saw the town that I was born in, Dragawesh, and I was surprised to still see horse-drawn carriages because, here in Nashville, we got cars, and the only horse-drawn carriages we have are the ones in downtown that people take to go sightseeing. But I never saw one, expect to see one, still in Romania, in a poor country. And I saw what the houses look like, and Mom was always joking with me, that could be your mom, that could be your dad, that could be your grandmother. I'm like, oh, Mom. And I saw, the headmaster at this little school in the town that I was born in, and the kids going to school. And we saw the church that we think I was probably baptized in. And then we went to the orphanage, and I was like excited about that because I was like, maybe I get to see Mama Fanika, maybe I'll get to see some of the kids. And, and if this is still, work in orphanage, then maybe when I'm older, I could come back and adopt a child from this orphanage and give them a second chance at life like I got. When we got there, we were told that the orphanage has shut down. And so it was just an empty place with maybe a few boxes here and there. But in my mind, I didn't tell my parents this, but in my mind, I was like, this is where I slept, this is where I ate, this is where I played, just from the memories. And it was just nothing there, but the memories are there. And I knew this is where everything was.
Was that sort of heartbreaking? Did you want to see it vibrant and full of kids?
I did. And then I was worried about, where did all the kids go? And where did the workers go?
Right.
Because I was told, and by our tour guide, but also just learning, through history that sometimes when a kid reaches a certain age, they have to leave the orphanage and they get put on the street because it's, they're past the age of where they can stay at the orphanage, and they're not, they haven't been taught how to live on their own. And so I'm like, well, all these kids, are they on the street? Like these kids that I might have grew up with, or that might have been a little bit younger than me, what happened to them? Did they get moved to another orphanage? Did they get put on the street? Or, it was just that scariness. And then I was just surprised of how, poor it was. And everywhere we went, there was kids on every single sidewalk or on the street begging for food, begging for money. But we couldn't give them anything because our tour guide said society, that wasn't our job to do it.
Yeah. Were you looking on the streets kind of like your mom was saying, that could be your grandmother, that could be your... Did you see your face reflected in any of the faces that you saw?
No, but I kind of wish I did. But we think that if we had talked to... Because we go in there, My parents, I didn't find this out until I think later on when we got home, or maybe after we left Romania, that my parents were actually going to maybe try to find information out about my biological parents. Because they could have asked the headmaster in the town that I was born in. And I think then they were like, no, let's not do it, because they might not want to know me. They might want money instead of get to know me, because since Romania is such a poor country, and since my parents were so poor, or I'm assuming they were so poor, then they wouldn't want to know me. They would want money, or think they would need something for my parents adopted me. They would expect something in return for me living in the U.S.
What parts of the puzzle have you solved? What pieces do you have?
There's really not too much. I still have a lot of questions that are not answered. Like, why did they give me up? Why did they keep my, biological brother? Did they actually love me? Or, because my mom was so young when she had me. I think she was 16.
And that was from the records you found out?
I think so. And I was like, was she raped? Was I product of a rape? Is that why she didn't want me? Or could she not take care of me? And so as I got older, people told me different things. And then in my heart, I just stayed with, she did the best thing that a mom could do. And she knew she couldn't take care of me. So she, put me in the orphanage, or told somebody, and they took me and put me in the orphanage, knowing that a loving family would come around and take me and give me a better life and love me and raise me as their own.
So that's the narrative that you embrace, that gives you the most comfort.
Yes.
What if you did find out some details that were perhaps painful? Think you could deal with that?
I think I could, because then I could close that chapter of my life and close that book, and then kind of focus on the present and the future, because I want to adopt. Like, if I don't get married, by I don't know when, if I don't get married by my mid-30s or late 30s before I turn 40, I want to adopt, because I want to give another child a second chance at life like I got, and let a child know that there's somebody out there who's going to love you, protect you, be there for you, never give up on you, and let you know that you mean something.
This is Banner and Company, and we'll be right back. Now, you talked about searching for your biological family over there. Have you talked to your adoptive parents about that?
I really haven't, because I really don't tell them as much of the stuff that I kind of been thinking, because I don't know how they would react, or if they would be, I'm sure they'd be okay with it, but I'm always just nervous, just letting them know what I might be thinking, because I'm always just so used to just keeping stuff bottled up and just not telling anybody or letting them see any of my, emotions, because I was just taught to never share or show emotions.
Are you worried about that your parents might be hurt or disappointed?
A little bit, but I would think that they would want me just to know, because any child who is adopted, would want to know kind of their life. And I know my parents, don't have the answers either, because it was a closed adoption. And they would just say, we would help you, if you want to, go further, but you just may not find anything. Or when I have asked them, they would say the same thing. She may just want money. She may not want to know you. So I don't know if you want to open up that door and have more wounds, or go down that route.
Yeah. Yeah, because you really, not knowing the answers, there could be disappointment.
Right.
We all want a really happy ending,
Yes.
We want to run across the field and give everyone a big hug, but that might not be the reality.
Right. And I think if that wasn't the reality, I'll be okay with it. As now that I got older and kind of lived my life more and more and kind of worked through so much stuff that I was going through with my therapist, that I would be okay with finding out that information. And if the information wasn't what I expected, I would know, okay, I am meant to be here, and I can finally close that chapter of that book, and I could put it aside.
I don't want to pry too much, but are you comfortable talking about why you sought out a therapist?
I was just having night terrors. And I've been sleeping on my couch for maybe 3 or 4 months, and I just couldn't sleep in the bed. Just life in the orphanage. It was like starting to come back. Stuff that I totally forgot or thought that I didn't remember. Because some of the stuff I remember are like from stories, but also just from like memories. But then stuff that I thought I had really put away started coming back.
And how old were you?
This was back when I was in my 30s. So I was like an adult. And my parents didn't know that I seeked out a therapist or that I was even having these, problems. And, but then, he took me kind of back through the timeline, and I was able to talk about some of the traumatic experiences that I might have gone through. And I was able to put some of that stuff kind of up on the back shelf, because I would get angry sometimes without realizing it, or not always being able to tell if somebody was joking with me or if somebody was being serious, and always felt like I had to be like kind of tough and strong. And of course, when I'm with the kids, I'm nurturing, caring, like a big teddy bear. But like my protectiveness comes out because back then when I was little, I wasn't always able to protect myself when I was younger. So I can protect myself now as an adult.
Maybe overly so.
Right.
Not letting people in.
And that's why I just kept everything in for like 27 and a half years.
Wow.
And I just kept it bottled up. And then it just came. And so now, after speaking with my therapist, like maybe 2 months ago, I'm back to sleeping in my bed and not having any of those, dreams, except one dream that kind of comes, which is the reason why I reached out to you. Maybe from this, which I don't know if this is even possible, but maybe you might have some ties still to where maybe we can find information out about my biological parents. I mean, I don't know. But I feel like I needed that information just so I can close that part, because I just have that. Because when I was growing up and I was asleep, I would always hear this voice, and it was a woman's voice. And I didn't know, and I never told anybody this, like nobody knows about this. But I always heard this voice. And I wasn't sure if it was my biological mother just whispering, or might have been one of my Mama Fanika, just whispering, saying that I love you, you're safe, you're okay, you're in a better place. But I would always just hear this voice, and it would just wake me up. But there'd nothing be there. But this voice, I could always just hear it. And
was that comforting?
It was comforting, and then it made me like, do I need to go, like Frozen, do I need to go follow the voice? And like the Frozen 2, she hears the voices and she goes looking for it. I'm like, do I need to go looking for that voice, or try to find out what that voice is, or is it just my imagination?
Your parents will hear this.
I know. I'm nervous.
Really. It may start a whole new communication route with them.
Possibly. I'm hoping. But I think they'll like it, but I'm just nervous. Because people always ask me, are we close? We are kind of close, but I miss that connection, because, nowadays we would, when we have our professional development days, we would learn a lot about early childhood education and how that bond between a mother and a child happens at infancy. Well, I didn't get any of that because I got put in the orphanage right after either, I don't know, it was right after I was born or shortly after I was born. So I have no recollection of my biological mom or if she even held me or said anything, because the memories that I have were in the orphanage and of my caregivers. And we didn't get told I loved you. We didn't get picked up as often. So I learned how to kind of soothe myself and learn kind of how to, entertain myself. And I didn't have that closeness with my, adoptive parents like my younger sister did, because she was just a baby. So she's a lot closer to them than I am.
So those lost years,
right?
That 2.5 years,
I think might have had a little damaging, or might have damaged me a little bit. And so that's why when I do adopt, I either want to be a stay-at-home mom or work part-time, because I don't want to miss any of their after-school activities or any part of their life, because my biological parents miss so much. Like, my caregivers are the ones that taught me how to walk. They taught me how to eat with like a silverware, with a spoon and all that. Taught me my first words, everything that a parent would do. They taught me that. And I don't want to miss any of that with my kids.
Yeah. Have you ever read The Primal Wound? It's a very important book in the adoption world. The theory is that when the child is separated from the mother, that both are left with a primal wound. That, not to say that it can't be healed, but
Right.
Some people really believe that there's no reconciling that. In other words, it happened, it can't be undone, and it has to be dealt with at some point. And it sounds like that's what's happening for
Right.
you. You have so much in common with so many people
Really?
as an adoptee.
Yeah. And I'm hoping this touches the lives, of other people all over the world. I mean, that's my goal, is to kind of promote adoption, but also just to share my story in the hopes of just touching the lives, of people here, maybe in Nashville or just all over the world. And I did write my first autobiography book of, my life from being in the orphanage and to where it is now and everything in between. But I haven't decided yet if I want to publish it or not.
I happened to find the video clip of you crawling out from under a couch, under a knit blanket. I've got to say that you don't look that much different. I think you probably are about 18 months old there, or maybe less. What were you thinking when you saw that? You had seen a still photo, but you hadn't seen yourself moving and smiling.
I was like, I was so cute. And then I thought about what my dad said. Then I grew up. But I was like so cute, and I was like, man, I was so young back then, so innocent. And then this not knowing, from that video, and then from other videos, that I would be here, today. Just looking back, I was like, man, there I was in the orphanage, that little girl, blue-eyed, fair-skinned girl, and now I'm a 31-year-old young woman, now a teacher, and now surrounded by family, friends, and doing a podcast of my life back in Romania. I never would expected all this full circle would, happen.
Banner & Company is a production of the New Nashville Banner. Our producers are Steve Harouche and Andrea Tudhope. Original music by Verlin Thompson. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts or at NashvilleBanner.com. You're in good company. One of the things we do on this podcast is we have you choose a question out of this fishbowl. The question has come from someone else that we've interviewed. So I'm shoving the fishbowl over at you. Pick a good one, read it out loud, and give it some thought.
From Mark Wayne, what
does a meaningful life look like to you?
Ooh. I guess for me is just remembering where, I came from and just living my life to the fullest. Because I look back at some of the cards that people have wrote me for graduation, birthdays, and all that. If I ever get that feeling like, do I actually belong here? Or that feeling like I need to go back to Romania and I need to just live there. And because sometimes I have felt like I needed to do that just for some whatever reason, just that not knowing. But then I'm like, no, this is my family. This is where I'm meant to be. This is, where God had put me. And this is where I'm going to be for the rest of my life, is here in Nashville, Tennessee, with my mom and dad and my siblings, and working, with my kids and changing the life of my, kids that I look after, and then hopefully changing more lives of kids through the years. And that's what a meaningful life is to me, is just living my life. And just knowing where I came from and just seeing how I overcame so much stuff, even though a lot of it was hard and I struggled through so much, I overcame it, and I have such a great support system.